my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me bars, but I can see between to a dusty yard and long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone.
Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of Heidbangers. I'm Matty, and tonight I'm joined by Jack, by Alex, by Gordon, and by Neil. I don't know if joined by, that's the right way of saying that. When I kept saying by, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right. Anyway, right, we'll go with that. Couple of things just to kick off with. So this podcast is all about mental health. We should point out, well, I should point out that we're not mental health experts. We're not trained medical professionals. So don't take anything that we say as proper medical advice. Obviously, it's a topic that could involve some triggers for people. So just have that in mind when you listen to the podcast. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but if something comes up that could potentially cause you damage, just be aware of that. And if you are suffering, please do seek proper medical professional help rather than relying on an idiot like me. Right, so we'll start off. Jack, you're first up for me tonight. How are things for you, mate? And what brought you to the podcast?
So I think obviously I've had my issues with mental health before, and I think it's important that we talk about mental health for everybody, but specifically men's mental health. So I think a lot of men, there's a big thing about men's mental health. Sort of like, I wouldn't want to say a stigma, but there's a lot around it. Like, men don't speak out as much. I think that's really, really important. And as people that follow me on Twitter will know, I've been going to the changing room as well, and I think that's been really, really good. So I just wanted to come on and sort of share my experiences and sort of share what's helped me and share what my journey with mental health's been like, just so I can give anybody else that's struggling a bit of experience and background, so they know that they're not alone, and also just get things off my chest as well, and in a setting that I feel comfortable, and it'll be good just to speak out. So that's what brought me along tonight. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So I suppose one of the observations, Jack, I didn't take this wrong way, but you're you're definitely younger than me. I think you're younger than most of us on the podcast, Gordon. In fact, I think everybody's younger than me. Neil, you might be pushing it. We might be close, but I think everybody else is younger. And you mentioned, Jack, about it being difficult for men to talk about mental health, but I'd imagine as a younger adult male, it is harder still. So how did you kind of recognise it and face up to it?
It came, I think, a bit too late. I think I first sort of had my really bad experiences with mental health after my granddad passed, and that was in 2019. But being at high school, there was all the sort of bravado around, I don't want to, show any sort of weakness or anything like that. And school wasn't the best setting for something like that to happen, if you see what I mean. When I sort of first hit the wall with depression, high school was not the best place to be, especially with the group I'd surrounded myself with. I wasn't in with the right crowd when I was younger, and unfortunately that led to a lot of problems as well. So I only sort of started facing up to my mental health issues sort of towards the tail end of last year, start of this year. So it came far too late, but I recognised what a lot of the triggers were. I recognised why I'd been feeling depressed, why I have my struggles. Like, I have a lot of problems with my self-esteem and everything as well, and I've started fessing up to that and getting the help that I need. And like I've mentioned, I was going to the changing room, which has really, really helped. See, this time last year or 2 years ago, I wouldn't have ever considered going near anything like the changing room, because I would have been too afraid in case folk thought I was a loony or something like that. But I've really sort of started facing up to it. But it all started after my granddad died. I sort of got into a really deep, dark depression, and it's been in and out, and then I got myself in the wrong crowd with not just at school, but sort of folk that I was hanging about with outside of school, and I became a person I didn't like very much. And that was as a result of the depression, the fact that I wasn't fessing up to it. I was just sort of doing things to act out, if you see what I mean. I was just acting out, and it wasn't good at all. And the way I conducted myself and the way I behaved was not a person I liked very much, and that was all because of my mental health and my depression. So that's when it first sort of hit me, and I think since then I've been facing up to it. I've been improving. I've been trying to have a more positive attitude. I'm doing things in my life that I am happy with. So I think that I'm in a really positive place now. But yeah, that 2 years ago I was in a really, really dark place, and it wasn't good at all.
what happened if you didn't mind me being curious? Did you recognise it yourself, or did somebody intervene and sort of say, Jack, Kevin, what's wrong with you? You need to do something about this.
It was a bit of both, really. I sort of, it was funnily enough, sort of just before I turned 18 at the start of the year in February, I was like, I'm 18-year-old and I'm coming up for 18-year-old. I'm becoming a man, and I've not really, I sort of reflected on how I used to be and was like, that's not good. And I realised this is a result of my mental health. There's also a fact, my mum, who has had hard problems on her own, she was like, Jack, I think you need to speak to somebody about this because you're sort of getting yourself into cycles here. So it was a bit of both. It was a bit of, my mum, and not just my mum, but also like my friends and other family members saying, Jack, come on, you need to sort of get this seen to sort of thing. And then, like I said, it was a bit of myself going, well, wait a minute here. I need to sort of start moving myself in a positive direction, and the cycle's just going to keep repeating itself.
What was your first steps?
So my first step was to improve the way I was behaving. So, being more positive in my choices. So, before I'd sort of started going on about my mental health, I would be very loud. I'd be very sort of, sweary, confrontational with people, getting angry easily, stuff like that. So my first step was, right, I'm going to be more positive. I was negative as well. I'd be very self-loathing. That was my main problem. I'd be very self-loathing. I'd look at myself in the mirror and go, I hate myself. And I think the first step was, right, positive self-image. Because if you have a positive self-image, that will help you, improve your mental health straight away. And I'm not saying it's like a miracle cure, but a positive self-image really helps. If you, we're human, you're going to have the odd day where you go, I don't feel too great about myself. That's normal, but trying your best to have a positive self-image, that's the sort of first big step I took. And then the second big step I took, which was sort of like a first step as well, was going, I'm going to treat other people nicely and help others, because when I help other people or I'm doing something nice for other people, I'm doing other people a good turn, I feel good, and that makes me feel happy. I'm like, if I can help one person a day, I'll feel a bit better about myself as well, because I know that I'm doing a sort of like good deed for the day. I know that sounds a bit cliched, but helping somebody out and just engaging with people in a positive way, and I think that really helped. And that was my sort of first step, was like clean up my sort of self-image and how I view myself as a person. And that really helped. And because that, like I said, the main part of my mental health is the self-esteem issues and the self-image issues.
Find it difficult, or how difficult was it to get past that? 'Cause I imagine that's not just a switch you can flick and say, like, I'm not liking myself today, but tomorrow I'm going to start liking myself. I can't imagine that's an easy thing to do.
Exactly. It's something I still struggle with to this day. It's not as frequent as it used to be, but it's something I still struggle with to this day, because like you said, it's not a switch you can just go, right, yeah, today I'm like, I hate myself, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, whatever. And then you can't just switch it and go, all right, today I feel fine. It's something I still struggle with. The one I try to do is, instead of focusing on the bad things that happened, like I had problems at school with bullying and everything like that, instead of focusing on the bad that happened, I focus on the good. So I'm focused on the good, like, I'm working for Edinburgh City right now in the volunteer media role, that's good. Or I've just interviewed Gabby English, the Hibs women goalkeeper, on my YouTube channel, that's good. Or I've been on Strong Opinion Hibs podcast to talk about the Rangers semi-final and folk like the points I made. That sort of stuff. That's like viewing what I've done positively, instead of going, oh, well, that happened or this happened. And I think that helps. But yeah, I completely agree with what you said. It's not a switch. And it's difficult. Like, for example, I took a wobble a few weeks ago because I put up about Stevenson's contract extension, and a load of folk came on and started, spitting negative bile about it. And it's a group of lads on Twitter that start on me regular, like, and I think that can sometimes, if I'm in a good mood, if I'm in a good place, I'll go, right, they're just stupid wee laddies, it's fine. But if I'm in a bad place, like I was when that happened, I just go, oh, why does this happen to me? And so it can be difficult, but I try my best just to focus on the good instead of focusing on the bad.
You've talked about social media before, on podcasting, the difficulties with it. What's your strategy for kind of staying away from bother on social media?
I think it's just a case of like, and I appreciate, because I've spoken to Jack about this before, and it's interesting because, like, initially, like, knowing Jack through social media, you wouldn't have known like what he'd been through. And it's amazing, like, the knowledge that he's got, football, women's football, German football and stuff like that. But it just goes, and for a young age, So he's got like everything in front of him for that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like amazing that like what he's earned, like what he's done so far, and it can only get better, and it will get better for you. And like it's really good to see that happening. And I think it's just a case of like being in tune enough to switch off from it. You know what I mean? Put in what you want and take out of it what you need, and that's it. And it's just frustrating. And I think it's like, because it is that thing, but it's different. I try not to say anything on it that I wouldn't say to somebody like face to face. And there's times when like I'm halfway through doing something, I'm like, I'm just going to delete this because this could be taken the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? And it's the whole thing where like, would you say it if like your face was on a billboard with like what you're going to say? And it's like, it's just a case of just trying to switch off from it as much as possible, but it's difficult. It's just so addictive. But you need to get like, it's the same as anything. You need to get like, there needs to be a benefit from it. So stuff like this is a massive benefit. But as Jack says, it's like, sometimes it's like you need to have an opinion, and folk will just like have a different opinion just purely to wind you up or that, and it's like, and it's so difficult. And I feel for it. And like Alex, I think you're an absolute legend on it. And it's just like, I don't know how you do it, because I would be like, nah, I can't do that. I can't do, you know what I mean? And it just like, I don't know how you feel about it, because like, you're just constantly, and it's just so funny, but then winding folk up and that, and I can take offense if like I get like one comment out of like, say, 1 million made in a year, and that's the one that will rattle me. Not that I get 1 million comment, but you know what I mean? It's just that there's the one, and it's like, why are they saying that? And everybody else could be saying, that's funny, or that's really insightful, or but it's just the one. And but then I don't know how you cope with Alex. I really don't. You know what I mean? You're at the top of the game.
I'm only on social media. Like, I've got Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is if I'm on there and I'm not having a laugh, I just come off it. If it's not funny, something's not entertaining me, just come off. I didn't take anything personally on Twitter. It's just that was my approach with it. I had my own account suspended 2 years ago, and set up I don't know what would you call it, alter ego or whatever, just a fanny on Twitter, and I don't know, it just seems to have picked up a bit. So I'm only on there for a laugh, and if I'm not having a laugh, I just straight off, just go back to it later. There'll be something funny happening. And the block button's good, and the mute button's good. Just because then you end up with what you want to see. So
exactly,
that's pretty much how I treat it. And then with regards to winding folk up, it's I've a list of deleted tweets as well. I'll say that.
yeah,
that's a list of tweets I'd like to see.
They're classified.
Pretty much, aye. So, if you, I don't know what I'm doing. Just talking shite on Twitter. If it amuses me or it makes somebody laugh, that job done. That's it.
What about when you post something, Alex, and you get a there's maybe a wee bit of fishing, and you get the bites that you were looking for? Because sometimes the bites can be quite extreme as well. Folk that they hold back on Twitter. How would you cope with that?
Oh, I don't know. What else are you going to call somebody that calls herself a fat prick on Twitter? That was my approach. Fuck it, I'll just go in. If you rip the piss out yourself, what else are they going to do? And the biggest sort of comment I get from strangers is, "Oh, your name suits you." So I don't know if I'm doing it the right way or the wrong way, but it's definitely no me on Twitter. I would say it's a persona. So seems to be. It's the reason I'm here talking to you, is because you all ken me on Twitter. So
good. Fattest Prickus as well as the Twitter handle to follow if you're not already following Alex.
A big fat prick. I'm actually getting like I got it was Hamden. 3 or 4 guys come up to me and went, "Oh, you're Fattest Prickus." I'm like, right, this is getting ridiculous now. I'm getting called a fat prick in public, so, and it's my own fault. So fuck it.
Gordon, welcome to the podcast as well. What brings you here?
Similar story to what Jack was saying. I've a bit longer in the tooth than young Jack, but it's a similar situation where I found that I've struggled with depression over the years, on and off. I found it really difficult to, like, the NHS, I find, are getting better, but back 10, 15 years ago, especially, very poor. I found it very hard to get any help. I think podcasts like this, and just even, it's interesting talking about social media there, because in terms of mental health, I think it's bad for mental health, but I also think it can be good for mental health. And things like this bringing us together is a prime example of that. But there's obviously the other stuff that Jack touched on, that Alex touched on, that can have quite a massive effect on your mental health. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and this opportunity to talk about the struggles I've had, and hopefully anything that I can say that's helped me would help someone else, even if it's just one person. I think that would make me extremely happy.
What's your story?
So, like I say, I've struggled on and off with depression for years, for numerous reasons, and a lot of people turn to different things to deal with it, like drink, drugs, self-harm, all that kind of stuff. And my thing was anger, and I blamed everybody else for everything. I'm quite into politics. I'm quite into I'm also into football. Anything like that, I would be getting angry at anything coming up, and it would be affecting my life like every day. Hibs getting beat, Scotland getting beat, the referee had a bad game, I'd be raging, absolutely raging, like watching the telly, like just screaming at the TV. Just every day I'd just be using me not feeling great about myself and the situations that had happened to me in the past and that I thought might happen to me, and just building up this anger. And I was destructive, and it's seriously, I've got an amazing wife and 3 amazing kids, and I was very much on the verge of just destroying the relationship I had with them, and just by lashing out and not taking what they were saying on board, just being destructive in general, not to the point where it was like, not that it makes any difference, but like police were never called or anything like that. But it was bad enough that I could see, like, my wife was pulling away from me, my kids were scared of me, and I genuinely thought I need to do something about this. And I tried a few things. Like I say, I tried to go to the NHS. I tried to even look for private, and the prices of like going to see a counsellor is something extortionate. And at the time, I was working in an agency that I wasn't getting paid a huge amount of money. I was like, I can't justify the cost of that. But I had 2 kids at the time to provide for. Like, so I didn't think my mental health was that important at the time. Nobody was really talking about this, as years ago, as much as they are now. So I just never really done anything about it. But then I came across, I think it was like on social media actually, funnily enough, and I think one of my mates mentioned that it was about mindfulness. And I think it was the Headspace app, which obviously is the most popular mindfulness app out there. And it is really good, and I'd highly recommend it to anybody as a starting point. And mindfulness and meditation around that, like, changed my life like tenfold, like for the better, tenfold. Absolutely, really did. And like, so for anybody that listens to this or watches it back, or anybody in the call that isn't aware, like, mindfulness is being aware of yourself and being mindful of like you as a person and your mental and physical state in that like very moment. And practicing meditation every day allows you to be mindful, allows you to be aware of who you are and what you are and what you're doing. It isn't like we kind of touched on, it's not a switch that you can just flick. You don't just sit there and you meditate and that's it. And the other thing around it is a bit of a kind of stigma that, or a perception that it's like hippy dippy 70s. Oh, I'm not going to meditate. Like, that's just like ridiculous. And I've talked to my mates about it, and I can tell that's kind of what they think, but it's nothing like that at all. It's literally, and it's different for everybody. So what I do usually is I'll get a quiet space, and it's mostly it's just breathing. It's listening to your breath, like the ups and the downs, and you kind of, the more you do it and the more honed in you get on your breathing, you kind of go into this state where everything just kind of gets zoned out around you, and you just become like totally in yourself, and then these like thoughts and realizations just kind of come to you in your head, things that you never really realized before because you were always so distracted about what's on the TV, what someone's saying to you, a car going past, anything. But when you manage to get to the point where you're kind of just totally focused on yourself, you kind of start having these realizations. And there's in everyday life, and obviously like they kind of say that you should do it every day, and that's obviously difficult for a lot of people. And I don't do it every day. Sometimes I'll go through spells where I do. Other times it'll be once a week, maybe a couple of times a month. But I think the important thing is that I realise that I've got certain triggers through meditation. That when I was getting angry, when I was feeling like something was getting to me, I could see it and realise and understand in myself, rather than just not knowing it's coming to the point where I just exploded. And then at that point, with those triggers, you can go away and you can start meditating, or you can start thinking, or I'll just listen to my breathing and just be in myself, forget about everything that's going on. And that there's, like I mentioned, there's loads of resources out there. Headspace is great. There's podcasts on Spotify, and there's the guy Deepak Chopra, who's like one of the foremost experts in the world around mindfulness, that I recommend everybody looking up. He's a bit out there with some of his stuff, but like he's spot on with a lot of it. And one of the things that he mentioned, and this is the big thing for me, and like I say, hopefully that it could help someone else, is that I realised that what is in the past no longer exists. It only exists in you. And that realisation, so like what I mean by that is that the stuff in the past, like even at a molecular level, it doesn't exist anymore. The thing I just said like 2 seconds ago doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It's in the ether, right? It only exists in us. Like you've heard me say it, so you remember it. I remember it. Something that happened to me 10 years ago, like it's gone, but I'm the one that's holding on to it. I'm the one that's in my head. I'm sitting there recalling it and making it make me angry, or make me anxious or upset. And it's the same with stuff in the future. There's no point in worrying about something that's maybe going to happen in a couple of days' time, or a month's time, or 3 years' time. It hasn't happened yet. Like that's the whole point of mindfulness, is that you're in the moment. So in this moment, that's all I need to worry about. If I can realise that and get rid of all the stuff and you never got to get rid of it. Like my brain isn't a hard drive that you can go into a computer and delete your files. You know what I mean? Like you can start forgetting stuff, or you can start dealing with stuff and trying to deal with the stuff that's there. It is going to come back, but at the time, just saying that was so long ago. I don't have to worry about it. It doesn't exist anymore. I'm the one that's holding on to it. If I get rid of it, then everything just kind of settles down. And that was the massive game changer for me. Just that line and that realization about that. And I'm in a much better place now than I've ever been. I still have bad days, if everybody does. And I still get angry when we don't, like Hibs didn't get a penalty or something like that. You know what I mean? Like there is those moments. But I have a trigger and I know that it's coming and I can deal with it better now. And my family life is much better. Like I'm in a job now that it's a great job. I don't enjoy it as the last job that I had. And I reckon about 10 years ago, if I did that, or even 5 years ago, I would have been in a really bad place, because I'm not enjoying my work as much as I was previously, but because I'm in a much better mental state, things like that are just so much easier.
Excellent. The mindfulness, was that something? So you mentioned the app. Were you able just to pick that up for the app yourself and just go, right, I get what they're saying on the app and put it into practice, or did you get help with that? Or?
No, I mean, some of the app, like Headspace, is really good for taking you through it just bit by bit. You get trials, and then it could get quite expensive after that. But like I say, there's free stuff out there. It's one of those things, and again, I touched on it when I was saying about like there's a perception around what meditation is. I think you need to be bought into it. I think to a certain extent, I think if you just, it's like with anything, if you're not committed to it and you don't believe in it, you're not going to give it 100%. You're not going to be committed to it. You're not going to get into it. And I just seen, I think, like I said, I'd seen on social media or something, and I started reading up about it, and I seen so many people saying that, like, about success stories, and an app as big as Headspace that was so big, I was like, it must be making a difference. People must be getting good out of this, and then so I took it on board and just kind of went with it. It is quite difficult at the start. I could see why people would get frustrated when you're trying to meditate and concentrate on your breathing, but it's telling you just to only focus on your breathing, forget everything that's going on, but you can't, and sometimes that's just going to happen. But I suppose that's like anything, like guitars on the wall there. Sometimes I pick up the guitar and I'll play a song and I play it shit. Sometimes I'll pick it up and I'll play it great. Doesn't mean just because I played it shit the last time doesn't mean I've just got to give up and never pick it up again. You just got to kind of keep going at it. That's what I would recommend to people. Just try it. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, but at least you gave it a bash.
Yeah, quite a few. I've seen a few employers now give staff access to things like Headspace and or equivalent ones as well, because I think obviously employers lose a lot of people hours to mental illness, so they try to kind of do a lot of preventive stuff. So it's probably worth folk checking out like kind of your staff benefits and things like that to see if to see if you can get access to it. Neil, is the mindfulness and meditation something that you've had a go at before?
It is, funny enough. I've got like an app. I think it is like mindfulness, and it's like you can meditate 3, 5, 15 minutes, I think it is, and you're supposed to do it daily. And it's like the same. So I do the 3-minute one, and it's like the same movement, tell me the same thing over and again. But I'll do it as soon as I wake up. I'll just put it on, and it's funny because I've now done it for like it'll be exactly a year today that I've been doing it. And that's constant. And it's so even like I was on the lads' weekend in Peebles back in September, and like in the morning and that before the fry up and stuff with a hangover, I just sat down and it was like drizzling with rain, and it was the Peebles Hydro, so it's quite like stunning scenery. Just sat there, hit 3 minutes and just like watched it. And I think it helps, and I've got one for my work as well, which I think helps, and it's that good way. And it does sort of bring it in, and it's a habit to get into, which is a good habit. And you can maybe relate to that, Gordon, as opposed to bad habits. So for me, our like bad habits could just be like just do nothing or like wasting time. But at least that way, it's a good way to like kickstart the day for me. And the whole thing completely relate to what you're saying, Gordon, about like the past. And when I was struggling a couple of years ago, it was like Guy Sam Fender, his song, which is called That Sound, and in it, nobody had like said it. It never resonated with me until I heard them say it in the lyrics, where it's something like, my mind is always troubling, where have I been and where am I going? And that just summed up, like, that was me, like at like 3 o'clock in the morning, you just be wide awake. What have I done with my life? What am I going to do with my life? What have I done? And that's it. And it was like, and I can't remember like the sort of lyrics, had a mind blank before it, but that just totally resonated with me, that song. And I was like, that sums up. And do you know what I mean? So but now it's like to get into that mindset, I can meditate, feel a lot clearer, and it's a good thing to do it. And it's sort of like, just keep doing it. And then it's like a habit. It's like it's probably like an addiction. Every morning I'll get up, make sure I do it. I'm gutted if I've not done it, I'll do it in the afternoon or that. And it just sort of takes me away. And it's really good. And even like breathing techniques and that are like so helpful in that as well. And another thing about like the whole like mindfulness to an extent, one thing like when I was in therapy a couple of years ago, I did it for a bit, stopped doing it, but I do it like religiously every day. Is like I'll do a gratitude journal, and it sounds really cheesy and like American and that. And even throughout the day, I'll list things that I've been like grateful for, and then things that I'm proud of, and then I'll just send it to like my wife at the end of the day, or like in the morning. And again, it's part of that sort of like mindfulness thing. It could be anything. So even if like Hibs win, grateful for that. But if Hibs get beat, I'm grateful that like I've never took it as badly as what I used to do. Like Gordon, I can relate to that. Do you know what I mean? What am I proud of? And I've said it before on here, and like pride's a currency that like we just cannot handle in Scotland. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm no like, what am I proud for? But then it's like proud because like I took the bin down the day and I've still got like a really sore arm and stuff. So that pride in that, or it's snowing and I thought I was going to slip because I've got no sense of balance, but I still went out. So it's just the wee things. And it builds up, and like initially I was doing like 3 a day, like trying aim for free. Sometimes I can get 20 in each one, but that doesn't mean I'm a legend, or that. It just means that like I'm more in tune with stuff. And then again, Gordon, completely relatable. There's a triggers, right? So if it's dipping, if I can only find maybe 5 things that I'm grateful for, what's wrong? Is there anything underlying? Building that again with the pride one. So stuff like that. And it's a good way for me meditate to start the day and do that like gratitude, pride journal at the end of the day. And then, yeah, no, it's a good way to sort of like start the day and then reflect on what you've done. And then it's a sense of like achievement. And I think we need that nowadays because everything's just like fast moving and that, and it's disposable, like social media and that. Do you know what I mean? It's just all, even like music and that. I love it now. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just all different for what it used to be. Queuing up to buy like albums and that. Now it's just like getting up at 5 o'clock on a Friday morning when a new album's come out, download it, there we go. Do you know what I mean? And it just makes it a bit more worthwhile and a bit more in tune. And I know like when I stopped doing that, I just like felt like I had no purpose. And if you feel like you've got no purpose during the day, then that's when you start to like I've done nothing for years. I'll do nothing for years. What is the point? And that's when it starts to eat away. Yeah. So, but that's good. Like it's really good. I'd recommend it definitely.
Gratitude
I like
journalist was something I've heard of before. But again, it's like you say about the typically Scottish thing, Neil, that we struggle with accepting good things in life. It's like a kind of typical Scottish trait. So you can't be proud of something because somebody will come and shoot you down for it, or like that. You shouldn't be feeling happy about what you've got, and it is like a nuts way of thinking. And it's good that you're listing it. You said that to your wife at the end of the day.
Aye, just like
if you've not done it, does she chin you for it and say, "Neil, where's your list today?"
she'll like now and again, like if I've not done it, like she'll say, like if I've not like done it the following day, that I thought you were going to do it. And sometimes you feel like, again, if you've been out on that and stuff, or like away with my mates, or there's times it's just that busy. But then like, and it is a good way. And then because you need the support around you, so then she'll be able to say, like, when I never used to speak about it, and it's something that I've mentioned as well. It's difficult for people who struggle with mental health, but it's also difficult for the people who are with the people who struggle with mental health. And I don't think that's always appreciated. Do you know what I mean? Because they're looking after somebody, or they're with somebody that's going through something, and it's like you're treading on like eggshells. What do you say? What don't you say? And again, Gordon, I can relate to you with anger in that as well. Like, and it's like horrible thing. Do you know what I mean? And I know like you can hurt somebody like with words as much as you can, or just the same as you can physically hurt them. And not that I'm like I don't know, not that I'm like belittling like physical abuse or that, or do you know what I mean? It's just like you can have the same effect, the same lasting effect. And I know like stuff's been said to me before, and it's probably hurt me more than I've been hit and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's just and it's just a really good habit to get in it, because I think it's so easy to get into bad habits. Do you know what I mean? And it's good, and it's light-hearted, and it can be just about anything. Do you know what I mean? Anything. It doesn't, but it just shows you like when you're feeling low, there is stuff that like works in your favor, and there is stuff that you've done. And the whole pride thing, and it's just such a Scottish thing. And I think I've said it on like the podcast previously, but I remember working in a place, and then somebody came in and had new shoes on, and then like the boss was like, "Oh, you've got new shoes," and the first thing the woman says was like, "Oh, I've got them in the sale." You've got to justify that, like, you know what I mean? You've got to justify it, or you look for a negative, and it's like, "How was your holiday?" And it was like, "I went to that 7-star hotel in Dubai. It was amazing, all inclusive. It was brilliant." But see, going there, the taxi driver was almost late, like getting to the airport, and you're like, so that's like the one, like the one thing that you remember about that like most amazing holiday was it like the taxi driver was late, and it's like, but do you know what I mean? It's just that thing where like, just a weird thing. I don't know. It's just a Scottish thing, I think.
I think it is, definitely is, because I was at the Scotland-Ukraine women game, and it was brilliant because I went and sat with the Ukraine fans that had come. There was a wee group of them that had come, and they were amazing, and it was great to know them and everything like that. But of course, the first thing I said when I get to the doors, because of the weather, those bloody trains. That's the first thing. Not that I enjoyed myself at the game or I'd met new people or anything like that. Those bloody trains when I got to. That's the first thing I said when I went to the door. So I completely agree. It is that Scottish thing and it's funny because I know a lot of German folk, and in Germany that's no the done thing. And I think it's great to see those sort of cultural differences, like how different cultures deal with that sort of thing. But I completely agree that in Scotland, you've always got to like find a negative or shoot something down. There seems to be that culture. And I used to be like that. I know, like I was offy for taking the mickey out of folk when I was at school, and it was mainly to sort of, get in with the, in crowd, if you see what I mean. When I was at school, because I struggled with making friends and everything like that at school because of my mental health. So there was a group of people that weren't really my friends. They only liked me when I was being an arsehole, basically. And, I feel really bad about all that stuff now, but I used to take the mickey out of folk just so I could get a cheap laugh off of folk that weren't really my pals. I was just doing it because I was that desperate for any form of attention or positive attention at that point because of how I felt about myself, that I just wanted to, you know, please anybody. Now I'm very, very lucky that I've got a good set of friends and I've got a good set of people around me. And it's, I've not tried mindfulness yet myself. It's something that I'm definitely considering because it sounds really, really good for our discussions about it tonight. Thank you to Gordon for bringing that up. I think it's great that we can all sort of find new strategies together and everything like that. My thing is the support networks I have. And I've got quite a few. First of all, I'd like to say, as you guys will probably know that are listening and guys with me tonight, I'm on the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast with Charlie and Calvin, two fantastic guys that are honestly, they look out for me all the time, and they've been brilliant. They've been absolutely brilliant. And then the other group of folk that have helped me so much is, and football's a big thing for my positive thing for my mental health. I know for a lot of folk it can be the opposite. Especially being Hibs fans, I know that
totally
it could be a big opposite. But for me, football's been massive, and especially around, as again most folk will know listening, I'm a massive fan of the Hibs women, and I go to nearly every home game. I've been to quite a few away games. I've been up to the cup games and that. As the Hibs squad are great. The girls are fantastic. They always come over and speak to me after the games, and they're always looking out for me as well. Quite a few of the players look out for me, and if they know that I'm on a wee bit of a downer, that they're always looking out for me. I think that's. I was going to say Hibs class, but I'd like to think that other football clubs are like that with their supporters as well. And I think, but that really is, they've been absolutely fantastic. And even when I had a wee spell of depression as well, like I don't know, I can't mind who organised it for me. It might have been one of the lads, the Strong Opinions, or it could have been somebody else I knew. That got Louis Stevenson to send me a video, saying like keep the chin up and everything. I thought it was great of Louis to take his time out to do that. As well. So I think football's been a massive help for me and all the folk I've met through football. Like we're talking about those Ukraine fans, that's me met a whole new group of people, and that's me get introduced to all new, because I didn't know much about Ukraine before that, and meeting that group of people and learning about a new culture, and that's a new group of people that I know now. So football's been a massive help for me. Aye.
Excellent, good to hear. And it's funny. It's like the things that maybe you didn't expect to find comfort in is where you end up finding it. And it's good if you've got like a support network around you. I think folk underestimate friends as well, because everybody thinks they want to burden your friends, but it's pals that you would share your kind of most intimate secrets with, but you wouldn't necessarily tell them that you're struggling. And probably they're the ones that would be the first, if they knew, they would be the first to jump in and help you.
They're probably, sorry, Matt, they're probably feeling exactly the same. That's, I think, an important thing that, and again, it's probably, I don't know if it's a Scottish thing, but it's that pride thing that we're talking about, that we all just assume that we're all right, and that you're struggling, and you reach out to someone, and then do hopefully they help if you've got good mates, but they're probably struggling as well. And I think we're tribal, you know what I mean? Like human race, we're tribal, and like it's Jack saying there, and I think I'm talking about mindfulness, and that's what's helped me. But definitely, you can see the benefits of having people around you that offer support and are always there for you. And I think the discussions around mental health, especially for men nowadays, is like it's made a massive difference to people reaching out and talking to each other.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, like, the stuff with like Gary Speed, that, like 10 years ago, and I remember that. So I must have been like, I was probably struggling at that point, but I never appreciated it because it would have been about 10 years ago. But I remember just like reading it and texting folk and that, saying that's mad. And even then, it seemed like a sort of like a weird thing for which, like, I don't know, it just seemed like a very distant thing for which you didn't really like expect to happen to like sort of famous people and that. And there's like really good stuff about it this weekend. The BBC website, it's just like really like it hits home. Do you know what I mean? Like the day before it and that, he was like, do you know what I mean? He was just doing what he was doing and that, and like, I don't know, it brings it home how it can affect anybody at any point. And it is that thing of like the whole like, and it was a meme where it's like I'd rather like listen to you. What is it? I'd rather listen to your stories now than like hear them at your funeral type thing. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather listen to,
Aye.
and it sort of resonates so much. And it is that the support network you've got, and you'll like everybody will know that now. Like the more you speak about it, and it definitely helps. And I've yet to see it will happen, but I've yet to see like negativity come from it. I remember like when Caroline Flack passed away, there was like the like be kind in that, and sometimes I think we maybe lose a bit of that, but and it's a shame that it takes people to like do what they do for others to realize that it's maybe like harmful in that, or that they should have been looking out. Do you know what I mean? And it's questions that people will ask, like saying I should have like maybe checked in on them, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. But I suppose if we've got the confidence to talk about it, then we're going to help ourselves in the long term as well. So, but I was going to ask you, Matty, like for the social media aspect, how do you manage that? Because this is like stuff like this. It must just be quite mad in that though as well, because you'll get like trolled and stuff like that, no doubt, for fans like even Hibs fans maybe.
To be honest, you're right. And
but then
touch wood.
And I think it's mad. Like, so I've done like creative stuff before, and I think it's mad because you actually put yourself out there. Do you know what I mean? So the whole podcast thing and that. I don't know. It melts my head. Like I just think I'd struggle with stuff like that because I'd be like paranoid about like what are people thinking? What are they saying? Did they like it? Did they not like it? Do you know what I mean? It must just be mad.
Touchwood, no really had too much in the way of trolling and stuff, which is mental. I think how that's happened. They just been either exceptionally lucky or just blocked the right people. It's that I took the decision early doors where it don't really engage like in arguments with folks. I have different opinions with people on the football. Obviously, we talk about it, and like say you put yourself out there. There's only an opinion, and we try to go to great lengths to say that we're idiots. Do you know, like when we're talking about football, and our opinion holds no more weight than anybody else's, but then they pretend to be experts in it, or that we're always right, or that we're no open to other points of view. And then if you get folk who come on and they're dead aggressive on Twitter, see, sometimes get them, I'll just no reply. Do you know, I'll just ignore it. And that's it. It's a way that the person's no in front of me. I'm not having to confront them. And do you know, if they want to disagree, I'll say, that's fine. It's all about opinions. That's fine. You carry on your opinion, mate. Didn't you? I think the closest I came to having a thought was a boy that constantly slaughters Hanlon and Stevenson. And he tweeted me to say that I've just focused on pulling out stats about Jack Ross and pretending everything was rosy. And the tweet they had applied to that actually said that was, that's fucking shite, Hibs, or something like that. I was like, I'm not sure how you've got what I've just said there, and then me pretending everything's rosy. But again, you just get to the point where it's like, let's just agree to disagree. So I'm the big fan of the block button. If somebody's coming on and they're going to be arse, I'll just block them, and I'll not spend any of my night dealing with them. Do you know, I just think I've got a great family. I've got good friends, good people who I would want to engage with and talk to. The other folk I'll concentrate my time on. If somebody wants to be a fucking arsehole to me, I'll just shut it down. You know, I'll just no engage with them, and they can carry on being an arsehole themselves. That's pretty much the way that I look at it, Neil. And if folk didn't like what we do, I kind of accepted early on that what we do isn't everybody's cup of tea. Mm-hmm. I'm all right with that. Like, do you know, I didn't like every band that's out there. I wouldn't go around saying all the bands are shite, and I wouldn't tweet a band to tell them they were shite. And just go, that's fine. I didn't like that. They didn't need to ken that. I didn't need to listen to them. Life goes on. And if somebody doesn't like the podcast, fair enough. It's not for everybody. And I understand why some folk wouldn't like it. So
it's a good attitude to have. And I know, like, for me, like, well into music, and so I'll be like, oh, this band's good, album, song, and that. There'll be other albums that have come out recently, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not getting it. But I'm not really want to like put it like online or that, or it's because then it's not as if like, and I'm not mentioning like bands or that, but it's not as if they're like in America and then they read it and they're like, oh, I'm really gutted that he doesn't like it or that.
Aye.
But and I think like when it comes to, and it sounds really pretentious, but creatively nobody goes out to do and you watch a film and it's terrible, but nobody intended, like the people behind it didn't intend for that film to be terrible. Like
Aye.
people don't intend for the album to be worse than the last one. Do you know
Some
what I mean?
of them
And it's
like
my opinion at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Adele, like she's got to sell like millions of songs, but like I'm not really that fussed about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I'm not really going to like troll her or that or say like your album's terrible.
Well
Do you know what I
done for
mean?
being
And it's
a
like, but then there'll be other ones
multi-millionaire.
where I'll be like, oh, by the way, this is really good. That, and it's sometimes you hear a song or you watch a film and it resonates with you, or a TV show, and then like, and I think it's a good way, a sort of good attitude to have. I don't know. It's just I'd rather be like a positive person than a negative person. Although I appreciate, I says I'm not going to slag anybody, but it just says I'm not a fan of Adele. So
You're allowed to have an opinion again if that's it. You're not,
I love her
I
older
think there's
stuff. I love her
there's a
older
big-
stuff, but
a big thing you mentioned it earlier about thinking about something you would say to somebody's face, and actually I think a lot of the time folks should just, because you get folk who would say I would say it to their face, but they're still I can't generally they're saying something that if you said that to a face you might be willing to do it, but it doesn't make you any less. I can't just didn't say it. Like folk didn't need to ken your opinion on things. You didn't need to tell somebody what they've done, something they've done crap or that you didn't like them or in that you could. Their life can go on and your life can go on totally different without you feeling the need to do that. I just think I don't get why folk tweet people to tell them they're rubbish and all the rest. It blows my mind that folk would do that.
No, that's
That example with music, because so I played in a band like, well, over 10 years ago now, and we toured maybe about 13, 14 years ago. And like Twitter wasn't about, Instagram wasn't about, I think Facebook was like, but in its infancy, like it wasn't massive. Like social media wasn't massive. And we only ever got I would like to say that it was because we were shit hot, but we never got any negative like after gigs. It was always someone coming saying, "Oh, you guys sound brilliant. You sound like Muse. You sound like Placebo. You sound like or whoever, Ocean Colour Scene." And you're like, "Fucking hell, this is brilliant." And no one would ever come to us and say negative stuff to our face. But I've got a mate who's in a tribute band just now, and he did a gig, their first gig for ages last week, and I seen they post up a video. And it was at some sort of venue, and I don't know. Like I never watched the video, but imagine after 2 years of no playing, his voice probably wasn't up to its best. So he maybe missed a few notes or whatever. I don't know, but he got dogs abuse on like Facebook, like he's absolutely shit, and like he doesn't sound anything like the guy, like the band that they're tributing. And that it's like I didn't think that would have happened.
Mhm.
Like, well, it never happened. I know it never happened back then. And it's essentially you're saying like I would say it to their face. I don't think most people would say
Nah.
you wouldn't.
to their face.
Would
And I think
not.
that's where social media is pretty bad.
No, exactly. I think that's something I've massively struggled with, and it's like I don't know how many times I've had to chat about whether it's been with my pals or my dad's. Like you do not respond, and it's like it's hard for me. Now it's funny with music. I know I'll sort of get back onto my view of the football because the football's my big thing. But like I always used to get the Mickey taken out of school because everybody was listening to Tekashi 6ix9ine or whatever rapper was. And I was the boy listening to Rammstein and everything like that. And folk are like, "What?" I said, "Well, that's my opinion. I like Rammstein. You like whoever that is. That's." But I think with the football, the one that really got me is I got a really condescending comment on a tweet I put out about Jack Ross. It was the I quote tweeted. Folk know I put up stats and everything like that, and it was the tweet about Jack Ross joined us 2 years ago today, and I quote tweeted it saying, Jack, you got us from second bottom to seventh in his first season, everything like that. And folk came on. It was I can't mind who it was, and even if I did mind who it was, I wasn't going to name. I'm not going to name names because I'm not like that. But a really condescending comment saying, "Oh, you're a happy. I know you're a happy hippie, and you're a young lad and everything like that." I thought, is the connection between your brain and your mouth that loose that you're just going to, because I've said I dare to say something nice about the manager, I just don't get that at all. And say if it had been a Jambo or a Rangers fan that comes, Jack Ross is shite, whatever, you sort of expect that and you just go, right, block, that's some random Rangers fan or Jambo. For all I can, this guy could be a few rows along for me at Easter Road. And that's what hurts me, is it's your own that are doing it, if you see what I mean. And that's what annoys me because, again, coming from the German football point of view, in Germany, there seems to be a lot more respect for other people's opinions when it comes to football. Here, if you don't agree with somebody, it seems to be that, and I've seen not just at Hibs, I've seen it at Hearts, Rangers, Aberdeen, Celtic, Livingston, Broth, wherever. Is in Scotland, it seems to be a culture of I've got to take the mickey out of you because I disagree with you. And I don't think that's right at all. You can disagree with folk, and I will happily sit with on Twitter and have a civilized discussion. Like there's loads of good folk that'll come on, and if they disagree with me, they'll say, "Oh, I think so," and we'll just go through it having a perfectly fine chat about it. And I'm up for that, because at the end of the day, because of the sort of club we are, we know that there's going to be different opinions. That's it. That's a reality with a club like such as Hibs, that there's going to be. And same, I Hertha Berlin fan in Germany. Yeah, we're not exactly great either. So there's going to be different opinions on what players do this and what players. That's fine. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have that opinion, but you've got to be respectful. You've got to be respectful of my opinion as well. I don't necessarily agree with you, but the other one, my thing is, I've got a big mantra of, if you don't like it, scroll past it. You don't feel you need to rain on somebody's parade because you don't like it. That's a big one for me. And the one that really, really annoys me is the folk that, like I said, anytime I say something nice about Hibs that's like remotely against what some folk think, Paul Hanlon, Stevenson, Jack Ross, basically, there's the three buzzwords for you're going to get negativity if you say something nice about them, is, folk just come on and absolutely rip me to shreds for it. Like the one I said was, calling it back to the Louis Stevenson one, is when they announced that it was Louis Stevenson's contract extension, I put on, "Oh, well done, Louis, the only Hibs player in history to win both domestic cup competitions," which is true. I'd like that. Somebody would be like, "Oh, he's the only player to bottle it however many times at Hampden as well." It's like, what is the need, mate? Like, honestly. And of course, if I'm in a good, I was saying earlier, if I'm in a good mood, I'll go, "Well, he's an idiot, isn't he? I can't be, I can't be bothered with this." But I'll just ignore that. No, but if I'm in a bad mood, I will get into arguments with them, which is completely the wrong thing to do, because you never win against these folk. And that's what I'll say to anybody else that sort of struggles with that. The thing that I've learned is you're not going to win. It's a fight in an uphill battle with these sorts of people. So just leave it. Like Alex said, the block and the mute button are wonderful things. Honestly, wonderful invention, and you can deal with that. But I've seen that, and luckily, most of the engagements, like 98% of the engagements on my Twitter are positive because of the sort of stuff I put out. I will never go anything remotely controversial, because I use my Twitter as a professional thing as well. Obviously, because I'm aspiring sports journalist, I've got to be, as much as I might want to say this and that about Rangers, or this and that about Hearts, this and that about Union Berlin, I can't, because I've got to, have a professional look to what I'm doing, because you didn't want, say, for example, I'm going in for a job with a German TV station, I work in German football, didn't want them coming in and said, "Well, you commented on the Berlin derby, Scheiß Union and everything like that, and we didn't want you because you've said that," because that's what happens. And that's, the big thing for me is that's where I learned, I've got to, just put it out about football, state the facts. Obviously, you can be a wee bit biased if it's your team, but apart from that, just state the facts. And then 98%. Another one that I get so much, and I'll stop prattling on in a minute, folk will be getting fed up hearing my voice, but the one I get the most crap about from people is liking women's football. That's the one that really annoys me the most, and it really grinds my gears, and the way folk decide to react to women's football as well. Is the one that really got me was Tony Malone, the American girl that plays for us. She got a lot of silly comments on Twitter from these silly little boys. They were Hibs fans. Again, no naming names, but they're silly little boys. And I made the mistake of going, "Right, come on, lads, it's not funny, it's no big. Come on, she's a person. It's not just, oh, look, a girl or anything like that." And I got all sorts of that. But I think loads of folks say, "Oh, why do you like women's football?" They'll make dirty jokes about it, or they'll call you a pervert, or they'll just say, "Oh, women's football's." I think, what's the need? It's 2021. You've got to face facts. And I think, to me, and this is the honest fact, I don't see gender in football at all. I see a good footballer. I see a good team. Doesn't matter who the players are. I see a good footballer and I see a good team. That's it to me. And I've been a big advocate for the women's games. I think it deserves more recognition. And I think folk that try and compare it to men's football are just silly. Just enjoy them both. Enjoy them both, and enjoy them both for what they are. I think a lot of folk that criticise women's football don't really know what they're talking about most of the time. I think the women's game's fantastic, and the women's game's a lot less toxic than the men's game. I'll tell you how much less toxic it is. Hibs, Rangers women in the SWPL, we sat with Rangers fans, had a laugh and a joke in Pearl Lane, because it's the certain group of Rangers fans that go to the women's games that are a bit more, well behaved, shall we say, to keep it diplomatic. But I like that element of it as well, that you can sit with other fans. It isn't segregated, and you don't have any bother, and you can just sit and have a chat about your teams. And I think that's brilliant. But I think in terms of football and the social media, for me, the big thing is just, I try to ignore anything that's silly, because, like I said, I'll have civilised discussions with people, but if anybody says anything that's taking the mickey or being rude, I just ignore it or block or mute. That's that for me.
Jack,
Jack,
do you ever feel like when those people are having a go of trying to be like empathetic, like show a bit of empathy like towards them, in terms of these people might be going through, because this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, because this is how I deal with it. I think that not all of them, some of them are arseholes, but I think there's a lot of people that they're going through things. All the stuff we just talked about, that they're having issues in their life. They go on Twitter, they're angry, because I know what it's like to be angry, and that's why I don't rise to it, because I just think this person maybe just going through something and they just want to vent. They are being an arsehole, but we're all arseholes. I've been an arsehole. Like, I don't know if that's just like the way you're saying is perfectly fine, if as long as you're ignoring them. But like you're saying, sometimes you get into an argument with them, and I sometimes think to myself, well, show a bit of empathy, maybe just try and understand where people are coming from. Easier said than done, obviously, but I just wondered if you've ever thought about
I have, honestly, because when I had the really bad struggles with my mental health, I was like that. I'm gonna be honest. See, I went to Easter Road, and I used to hang about with, again, not a great crowd when I went to the football. I wouldn't watch it. Honestly, this is when I was going through my really bad stuff too. It was before COVID. I would not watch a ball kicked on the pitch. I'd be too busy trying to wind up other folk or being an idiot. And that came back to bite me, and I've accepted the consequences of that because of my mental health. So yeah, I do empathise with these folk. But yeah, I used to go to East Road, and I'm not joking. I would not watch, or couldn't remember anything about a ball kicked on the pitch because I was too busy being an idiot. And I think that's things. So that's why I can empathise with people, because I've been there. Obviously, it wasn't in the social media; it was actually in public. But yeah, I can empathise with people, and that's why on the most occasions I go, well, maybe they've had a bad day and they've saw something on Twitter they didn't like and they've just snapped. So I definitely, because I've been there. And again, on social media, I used to get myself into some right silly situations and arguments on Twitter before I sort of started getting help. So yeah, I do think that, and I definitely think it's 90% folk that are maybe having a bad day and have just lashed out, that otherwise would have had a completely fine conversation with you. I think the other 10% is just idiots. And I think, I don't want to sound like ageist or anything like that, but I think if it's an older person on Twitter, I don't want to say older person, because to me, I'm 18.
How old are you talking, Jack, here, just before I say whether I bet you're
I was going to say, I'm 18, so just about, but I mean, in like laddies.
He's got to say 22,
So laddies that are younger than me or sort of similar age to me, usually you go, right, they're just fishing for likes off their silly wee pals. Now, I'm not saying that's all of them, but that's usually the case. Well, sort of folk, maybe they're struggling, because I know that I've had it before where, I've got it wasn't anything to do with Hibs. It was actually a guy that was a Union Berlin fan, and I actually know him quite well, because he's actually quite a good guy. And he came on and said something about, I write a lot about East German football. He said something about Dynamo Berlin fans being Nazis, which, every support group's got its own idiots, and that, we got into that discussion, and he said some not very nice things about the club. And I know loads of Dynamo Berlin fans. I can tell you right now, they're the furthest thing from that sort of people. There is that group at the club, but you're going to get, like I said, you're going to get idiots at every club. But he actually messaged me after. He went out his way to message me and said, "I'm sorry, Jack, I've had a bad day. There's a lot going on." And because obviously COVID's really bad in Germany right now. So, he was a bit worried, because he lives in Berlin, and he was a bit worried about that. And he said, "I'm sorry." And I said, honestly, I completely understand it, mate. I'll just draw a line under it. So I think, yeah, I completely agree with you. And like I said, I can empathise because I've been there in terms of acting out. And a lot of it is acting out. A lot of what I did was acting out. It wasn't I wanted to be that way. It was acting out because I didn't know how to deal with the thoughts that were going on in my head.
It's a really good point that you make, Gordon. Having empathy for the other person, and sometimes we see our perspective, but then they all often see the perspective of the other person. I think if you take a wee step back every now and again, especially with things like social media, it's probably better for everybody concerned if you just take that wee breath and then don't jump in with both feet. We're kind of out of time for tonight's podcast. That's just I thought we would probably get about half an hour tonight, and that says hit an hour. It's absolutely flown in. So, Jack, Gordon, Alex, Neil, thank you very, very much for your time this evening. I hope it's been helpful for folk listening. I'm definitely going to download the Headspace app next. We'll be back with another episode of Heidbangers next week. We'll have long bangers and short bangers in between that, and probably a quick bang as well because we're playing Rangers on Wednesday night. So we'll probably need a bit of help with our mental health after that, no doubt. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.